your mayor. I think he's done a terrible job. The mayor of London, but a nasty person. I think he's done it. I think he's
a friend of mine, right?
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
You mentioned Canada. I think you're trying to find a divide between us that doesn't exist. We're the closest of nations, and we had very good discussions today, but we didn't discuss Canada.
Thank you. Please. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames, messieurs, welcome to Then and Now, the weekly show I do with Jim Jatras, author of I Try to Warn You, available at Amazon and on Kindle, your fine booksellers around the world. How you doing, Jim?
Great. Good to see you again, Jason, as always.
Absolute pleasure, sir. You get your best Scotland out. Get your best Scottish brogue. Because we're going to be talking about Trump. Trump goes to Scotland. Trump goes to Scotland like a bunny man he is. Trump just did the thing after a really rocky month there. Trump just did the thing that all Americans love better than baseball, maybe even better than hot dogs. Donald Trump went over to Europe and basically spanked a whole bunch of Europeans live and on air. And it was hey, give the man some credit. Give the man some flowers. It was glorious. I quite enjoyed it, especially the Starmer stuff.
Well, there's dirty work afoot in the heather in Scotland. I'll tell you that. Look. I mean, you're right. Nobody enjoys a good Euro spanking like I do. So the fact that he humiliated people who deserve to be humiliated, it's sort of like when Biden was standing next to what's his name, Schultz, saying he was going to blow up Nord Stream, and all Schultz could do was stand there looking at his feet in humiliation. I mean, these people really deserve to be humiliated. You sort of wonder how much longer can people in these countries take this kind of thing? I guess they're just gluttons for humiliation.
Well, honestly, just desserts, right? Because for Trump's entire first term, they chided him, they made fun of him, they try to turn their backs on him at gala events, and all the things. All the things they're still doing in some ways, but now they can't. Now you have the NATO head calling him daddy. You have Keir Starmer and his poor beleaguered wife. I almost feel bad for the woman standing there. I don't know if you've seen the photo ops of them.
Keir Starmer.
Yeah, Keir Starmer's wife, who had spent many years being a very anti-Trumper, being the Trump balloon and all that stuff they had going on in England for a while. And there she has to stand there. And she's not smiling. She refuses to smile. That's a bridge too far. No, she'll stand there, but she's not going to smile. It's glorious. And of course, Ursula von der Leyen got to eat some crow and have to sign on to this Trump deal, this Trump EU trade tariff, whatever you want to call it, deal. We'll read out the points and discuss that in a second. And she's facing, she barely got through her vote of non-confidence not too long ago. Far be it from me. I never make predictions, Jim. But far be it from me to make any predictions. But I feel that Ursula might actually have a shorter shelf life than Zelensky these days. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out.
Or Keir Starmer. One never knows about any of these people,
Yeah. Keir Starmer's approval ratings were not exactly very good. But of course, leading into this week, the UK unveiled their Digital Surveillance Act, very similar to one that they're going to be trying to roll out here in Australia. And predictably, it's not gone over well with the UK public, who found out that it wasn't just about. They sold it on the grounds that they're trying to keep CP and porn and all the rest of it away from kids, which You know what?
Mhm.
Honestly, if the digital panopticon happens in my lifetime and we all have to be on, scan our eyeballs to use the internet and all that stuff, if it keeps kids away from that stuff and
Yeah.
kills off OnlyFans and all the rest of it, I'm kind of, we'll see how it plays out, right? I don't want to say I'm going to be for it, but maybe in some ways I'm not going to be totally against it. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Well, what you're leaving out is the panopticon is being run by the people who are not wiping out those vices, but actually sponsor them. So it's somehow I don't think that's the way it's going to work.
yeah, it's a little bit like I think tomorrow on my stream I'll be talking about Sydney Sweeney. I don't know if you've heard about this one, the actress model, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah, what's the deal with that? I did see the piece on Zero Hedge, which says, note there are pictures in this story.
Right. She's just coming out with a whole series of like jean ads that came out, like they feel like straight out of like 1996. She's a pretty busty little girl and she's wearing these jeans, but the whole ad campaign is Sydney Sweeney's got great jeans. And of course, the hysterical left. Yeah. The hysterical left has gone on. This is like, just like Germany eugenics and et cetera, et cetera. I would like to see the Venn diagram though, of all the people who are bringing up, eugenics and gene stuff being bad. How many of them took the shot? How many of them, if literally was offered a gene therapy to get rid of their anxiety or something, they would take it, right? Okay. But we just found out doing some research on that. Research, it's openly available now. The gene company she works, the gene company she works for is owned by 2 Jews. So
that doesn't sound very well. I think that's sort of takes the whole Aryan Nazi genetic thing out of the picture, doesn't it?
Either that or they're playing both fields. They're like, hey, you know what? It worked for Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
What can we say?
Yeah.
Do a little bit of springtime for Mustache Man. It's why not?
Or Madeline Kahn in Blazing Saddles as Lily von Stupp. The Teutonic Titmouse.
We're cracking out all the references. We were talking about Natasha and Boris from Rocky and Bullwinkle earlier.
Boris and Natasha, Rocky and Bullwinkle. Yeah.
Who was Squirrel?
Boris Badenov and Natasha Fatal.
Who would be so stupid? But Boris, who would be so stupid to walk on the railroad tracks?
We now join our friends walking along the railroad tracks.
Okay.
Fractured fairy tale. I mean, look. I mean, the kids today, they got no culture. They got no appreciation of the finer things in life.
Just what's the Bob Dylan song? Anyways, that triggers something. Anyways, okay, a little bit of an update. Let's gather our forces. I'm sorry, I'm in a bit of a silly mood here, folks. So forgive me. Also, of course, send us your money. If you got money rattling around in your account, what are you doing with it? Nothing? Good. Send it over to me. I'll put it to good use, like getting a speech therapist. Send it over on Streamlabs. Links in the description below.
Almost got me.
Chat as well. I almost got you. Almost got you. So send me some money. Of course, go buy Jim's book. I try to warn you. Links in the description as well. And of course, the Ludlow Orthodox Conference. Jim, why don't you tell us all about
Ludwell. Yeah.
See,
yeah.
I should just kick it to you. Everything I say about it just comes out wrong. I'm getting very nervous.
Registration is filling up fast, but we still have some space. So please come. It's Vladika Jonah, Jay Dyer, me, of course, and other notable speakers with very interesting issues of history, culture, American Southern Virginia identity. It's and also what it means for the spread of Orthodoxy in America, as well as specifically in the South. So it's promised to be there. Father Turbo Qualls. So it should be very interesting kind of thing. There's still space, and the early bird special runs through pricing runs through August 15th. So people, southernorthodox.org, southernorthodox.org.
And of course, I'll be there in spirit. So come on out and
Mm-hmm.
support local Orthodoxy if you happen to be in Virginia or you can make it down. It'll
I
be
like that. Trump doesn't know
yeah.
Scotland from a hole in the ground. I like it.
Okay. Let's do a little bit of Ukraine-Russia updates. The news out of Ukraine is dire and getting more dire, not just Jay Dyer, but dire, with an I.
Dire.
The war for Pokrovsk, depending on which news report you happen to be reading at this current hour, is pretty much over, depending on who you're talking to. Of course, the Ukrainian forces are still there putting up a defense, but I keep getting more and more reports. Some more confirmed than others, that Russia is now just coming into the town, coming into this, I guess, city, really, town, city, pretty unopposed. So it looks like the war for Pokrovsk, which many people, including me, had to speculate it could be a long one, at least reaching into the winter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it gets past the fall at this point. If Russia, isn't planting flags in October, I'll be surprised. And then, of course, there's wars going on, clearing up in the south and the north as well. Ukraine is still pushing back a little bit, taking back some towns, but this tends to be a bit of a rope-a-dope tactic by the Russians. We've seen it before. So I highly doubt Ukraine will be taking any real territory. Other news out of Ukraine, Ukraine did try to launch another drone swarm attack deep into Russian territory. Mostly that was thwarted. Of course, it wouldn't really matter. Buck Johnson is here for this. Good to see you, Buck. It wouldn't really matter now at this point. And Russia continues to hammer Ukraine all night with drone swarms, missile swarms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, excuse me. We'll see how long Zelensky holds out. Now, more increased rumors of him having to flee Kiev, or if he's already left, I would probably say he's. I doubt he's been in Kiev this entire time. Anyways, I think he's been probably somewhere in a bunker in Poland, or bunker meaning booger sugar den somewhere in Poland. So yeah, any thoughts on that, Jim? And we can. I don't know. Do you want to talk about the EU stuff first, or do you want to talk a little bit of the Trump peace threat?
Well, let's talk about Ukraine and sort of then segue into the Trump and the EU stuff, because it's all connected. I mean, as far as what's going on the ground in Pokrovsk, I'm not in a position to say. I mean, as you know, the Ukrainian command's approach to this has always been, whenever they're in a hopeless situation and they're encircled, is to keep sending more men in and not let the ones in there retreat. I mean, it's sort of like replicating the German Sixth Army in Stalingrad on a smaller scale. And that's what they did in Mariupol. That's what they did in Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and so forth. So, if they're smart, they pull those guys out and save their lives, or have them to deploy somewhere else in the future. I don't know if they're going to do that. And I don't know when the Russians are in a position to snap the trap shut on that one. So let's just put that aside. I think the bigger question is the political one. You've got the demonstrations against Zelensky in Ukraine. You've got Europeans claiming they're going to start cutting off some funds to Ukraine because of the anti-corruption stuff, and those two anti-corruption organizations that he's taken directly under his control. And the outcry was such he had to resubmit his bill to the Rada to change what he was going to do. Frankly, I think that's all sort of play acting too. Like, what? They just discovered this week there's corruption in Ukraine. What? Why wasn't I told? And the idea that this is somehow an issue. I think what's happening is probably there are some elements among his supporters, whether we're talking about some of the Banderas domestically, or whether we're talking about the British, the Americans, various agencies. Some of them are looking at him and saying, this guy's more of a liability than an asset. We need to get him out of the way. Either give him a golden parachute to go off with his ill-gotten gains, or maybe we can draw a leaf from our Vietnam experience and put him on the per diem plan, if you catch my drift. Mm-hmm. So it's that's a possibility. But I think other people realize that if you were to yank him out now and try to install somebody like Zelensky, that would really create a panic situation in Kiev rather than reassure people. So, I think they're really trying to figure out what to do next. And frankly, we got into this a little bit before we went live. This maybe has something to do with Trump's shifting from 50 days to 10 or 12 days or whatever his new deadline is before he's going to do something or other. We can talk about what that something or other might be. That I think there's some events on the horizon that he is now that are coming much closer than he initially thought when he said 50 days. And whether that's some kind of a Thanksgiving Day event in the markets and the bond markets and the global economy, whether it's the Israelis and the Iranians mixing it up again, maybe it's something domestically with his Epstein problems. Maybe it's something to do with Congress, coming back into session and having a vote. I mean, there's so many things that are, what's the word I want?
Coming to a head.
Sort of coming to a head all at the same time. And it's really hard to know which of those is really on his mind, given the rather messy way his mind works. So, I look, and I don't take his 10 days as word. Look, he said 2 weeks for Iran, and then he bombed them like 2 days later. Right. So the fact that he said 10 days really doesn't mean much of anything. He does now. This also then relates to the Europeans. He goes over there. The Europeans basically kiss his, let's say his ring, and give him everything he wants on trade or everything else, with a bunch of promises that neither side is really in a position to keep. I mean, okay, Ursula von der Leyen said that they're going to spend all sorts of money in the United States, buy all sorts of natural gas from the United States. I don't know that we have the gas to send them. They can't afford it. They're going to buy a lot of weapons from us, but there's only three problems with that. We don't have the weapons, they don't have the money, and the Ukrainians don't have the men. Other than that, it's a great plan. So, there's all this big kabuki dance going on with these people, none of which makes any sense or seems to have much substance to it. I mean, this handshake with Ursula and Trump, I think is going to last about as long as a Gaza ceasefire. It's just, how could she even enforce that on European member states? I don't see how.
Well, okay, let's read through. This is from Grok. We'll read through. This is the, I asked Grok to give a simple breakdown of the U.S. EU trade deal that's been announced. So as far as we know, this is what's included in the bill. Tariff on EU goods. Most EU exports to the U.S. will face a 15% tariff starting August 1st, 2025, lower than the threatened 30%, but higher than the previous 1.4% average. Zero tariffs for U.S. exports. The EU will eliminate tariffs on many U.S. goods, including cars, previously 10%, making it easier for American products to enter the EU market. This is the big one. Actually, I'm going to save the energy purchase to the end, because that's the one that's really bugging me. EU investments in U.S. The EU will invest $600 billion in the U.S. by 2028, including in pharmaceuticals and automotive sectors to boost American jobs and manufacturing. Military equipment. The EU will purchase significant amounts of U.S. military equipment, though no specific dollar amount was provided. Exempted sectors. No tariffs on EU exports like aircraft, plane parts, certain chemicals, generic drugs, semiconductor equipment, and some agricultural products, e.g. cork. Steel and aluminum tariffs. Existing 50% U.S. tariffs on EU steel, aluminum, and copper remains unchanged, with future talks possible. Trade deficit focus aims to reduce the U.S. goods and trade deficit with the EU, $235.6 billion in 2024, by increasing U.S. exports and encouraging local production. And framework agreement. The deal is primarily framework, with details still to be finalized, requiring EU member states' approval and U.S. executive action. Of course, it's saying this is going to avoid a trade war, which there was never going to be a trade war. But here's the bugaboo. EU energy purchases. The EU agreed to buy $750 billion in U.S. energy, oil, LNG, liquefied natural gas, and nuclear fuel over 3 years, aiming to reduce reliance on Russian energy. Thoughts?
I have to tell you honestly, I don't know enough about energy to say too much about it, except that I'm not sure we're in a position to deliver on that. Do we have that much LNG to export during that period of time? I don't even know what's going on And you also mentioned oil exports. Do we have that much oil to export? I don't really know the answer to that.
The short answer is no. We know under Biden that Biden cleared most of the U.S. reserves, oil and natural gas reserves, was basically kind of giving it away, mostly to Ukraine and a few other places, including Europe, to kind of make up for the oopsie doops with the Nord Stream pipeline, that
Right.
spontaneous climate change occurrence. And then so we know that the stockpiles in the U.S. are incredibly low. We know production, because during the Biden administration, most of the production got halted. Fracking and all the rest of it was banned, and a lot of the oil and gas initiatives that Trump had started in his first term were either terminated or put on pause or whatever. Pipelines into Canada were canceled, et cetera, et cetera. So we know that there isn't an increase in production. It takes a little time to get those things started up again, even if Trump's being aggressive about it. And I don't know how aggressive he's been in the background on this one, but regardless, it's going to take some time, and Europe's running out of time, especially on energy.
And also you have to take into account it's one thing to say Europe is going to do that, Europe is going to do this, but really the question is what is France, Germany, Italy, Spain, what are they going to do? I mean, for example, selling nuclear fuel, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought Germany's made a decision to shut all their nuclear plants and they're going to put up windmills instead, or something like that. Now, France still, I think, has a lot of nuclear plants. So, okay, maybe some countries will buy nuclear fuel, others will not. But how is Ursula in a position to make a commitment on a Europe-wide basis?
Oh, I mean, also for Hungary, Slovakia, Poland, Greece, it's essentially, as far as I can understand it, this is going to affect all EU member states. Here's the other little bugaboo with this one. My new favorite word. We found out during the Biden administration, because of course, Biden was shipping out all this LNG and oil, but mostly LNG. We found this problem. A lot of European plants that use the LNG can't use American LNG. They're set up to use Russian LNG. Oops.
Of course, no. The Russian is not liquid.
Nope. I think we just lost Jim for a second.
Liquid form.
Right, but I mean,
sorry,
you just,
you're right. In other words, whatever it is, they're not set up to use the kind of gas that we're supplying.
Right.
And of course, the other thing that I think is intriguing, you mentioned that there's no number on the amount of military equipment they're going to buy, and that relates back to Ukraine. And I think this really is something that I think we've got to look out for. Back to the 10 days that Trump is going to have to say or do something in the fairly near future that makes it pretty clear that I think is in with both feet on this now. That he's going to basically find himself Biden at this point when it comes to the Ukraine war. He doesn't have a whole lot of options, and I think it was a big element of quid pro quo in this deal for the Europeans and the Americans. Because remember, ever since he came in, he's been zigging and zagging and talking out of both sides of his mouth. And of course, you've got the Linda Grahams and the rest of those people and the Rutas and the rest of them all trying to, the devil sitting on this shoulder here. And then you've got, I don't know, Tulsi Gabbard maybe sitting on the other shoulder trying to talk in the other direction. And he's been very inconsistent. Well, I think his room for zigging and zagging has kind of run out. And he's going to end up where Ruta and Linda Graham and the rest of them want him to be.
Well, yes and no, because Project Ukraine has gone under, I think, various changes. The original plan was to take over Russia through economic warfare. Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, many of these companies just stopped doing any business with Russia.
Yeah.
Funny enough, just as a side note, I don't know if you've been paying attention to this, Visa and MasterCard currently went to war with this online video game provider called Steam and others. They suddenly declared that they will cancel all business with any platform who's selling games that are in any way pornographic or adult games, et cetera, et cetera. That was the first law. That was the first thing they said. And then, of course, they started going after whatever games they seemed to not like, right? Now, we might say, well, video games, who cares? But we're also starting to see this now
Mm-hmm.
in the UK with the Digital Online Protections Act. Here in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
there's quite a bit of outcry, and some people are finally waking up and going, hey, you're saying this is to protect kids, because, both in the UK and
Mm-hmm.
here in Australia, initially is to provide a social media ban for under 16s for everything from YouTube. I'm talking about here in Australia. I'm not quite sure.
Right,
I think
right.
it's the same thing for the UK as well. Blanket ban
Mm-hmm.
on most social media sites. The UK's even gone further by a lot of their restrictions would basically blacklist Wikipedia. The list goes on, right? And they came out with a big giant list. Some of it listing, CP and pornography for children and all that stuff, which I think
Sure, sure.
I'm all for. But then you read down the list and
Right.
also say that you can be in violation of the Online Protection Act if you're a site that provides information about illegal immigration and what was the other one? And refugees or something like that. You're like,
Is
well,
is medical misinformation in there too?
who knows? We also know now
Yeah.
reports coming out from Meta users, and so Facebook essentially. Facebook is now sending out alerts to business owners or CEOs, upper management, alerting them of disturbing or any kind of tweets or postings that employees are making, and they'll send you an alert now saying, "Hey, did you know your employee is saying this online?"
Like you said, panopticon.
Yeah. Sorry, just wait a second. I bring all this up only to highlight it's like there's lots of stuff going on right now. The trade deals and everything you're seeing on the big screen, the Obama 2020 thing and Epstein and all these things. And I said this, I don't know if I said this on this show, but I've certainly said it many times. It's a distraction. You're being distracted. There's lots of other things going on that are much more immediate to your well-being or to the future well-being of you or your children going on that you should be paying attention to. That all this stuff, I feel, is a lot of smoke and mirrors. And as we're saying, this new, you have 50 days to make a peace deal or ceasefire or whatever. Now you have less than that. We won't tell you how much less than that, but less than that. I feel we can go two ways of thinking about this. Either it's, yeah, you're right. Trump is now all in on Ukraine because he has to be, because BlackRock has been promised whatever's left over, and they're trying to salvage as much land as they can. Which brings us to the interesting information point that just happened. Last 24 hours, there was a tragic shooting and some killings in New York City. One of the people who were shot and killed was the CEO, the BlackRock CEO in charge of real estate purchasing.
Interesting, because the public story is the guy had brain damage from playing football, and he was after the NFL, and he got the wrong elevator. So you think that's a cover story?
I think it's I no longer believe in coincidences, Jim. I blame it on the church. That's long gone for me now. And I look at this going, well, okay, sure, that could be true, right? That could be partly true, but why did the CEO of BlackRock's maybe just happened, bad day, right? Took the wrong elevator, should have waited for the next one. Yeah, okay, these things happen. Yeah. But we're also now getting reports out of Zero Hedge and many others, and don't at me about Zero Hedge. I just read them for the graphs, okay? That America is now in the third quarter of housing price decline. And basically, housing assets are taking massive dumps in cities like Houston and many others. So big, giant urban centers. We're not talking like, Mississippi somewhere. We're talking like, big wealth hubs.
You just read Zero Hedge with the graphs and the Sydney Sweeney pictures.
Well, yeah. My priest
You
has
caught
to,
me.
my
No.
priest has to book an hour for my confessions, Jim. It's a lengthy
Yeah, I know.
process. Uh,
Having good genes.
right. Yes. She has very good genes.
Yeah.
And then because we have that news, and then of course things going south in
Yeah.
Ukraine. BlackRock is heavily leveraged in Ukraine,
Mhm.
mostly in real estate and land deals.
Mhm. Yeah.
And suddenly the CEO is no longer with us.
Well, here's the thing.
Tinfoil hat in
somebody
Minecraft.
pointed out
I'm crazy. Don't listen to me. Right? Woo! Just I throwing things out there.
let's get those feelings out. um, the somebody pointed out that I'm trying to think who it was, that in one sense the Ukraine war has already been a victory for the West, because if the purpose was to make sure there could be no rapprochement between Russia and Europe, especially Germany, and to absolutely crush Europe and put it under American domination as an impoverished satellite, that's going very, very well, actually.
Right.
And in that sense, this thing can already be considered a success. Keeping the Ukraine war going longer, yeah, we get to sell a few or more weapons, poison the well a little more between Russia and Europe, maybe risk World War III, but there's a downside to everything. But in other words, the idea that it makes no sense to pursue the Ukraine war any farther because the Ukrainians can't win, I think that's a non sequitur. I don't think that follows. It was never about the Ukrainians winning. It was never about Ukraine. It was trying to hurting Russia to the extent we can, and also making sure that American domination in Europe stays forever, and there can be no re-engagement of Russia into Europe that includes us out. And that's actually working out fairly good. And so I guess the question is, what do they still think they have up their sleeve that they can, again, I think they're still focused on this idea of a ceasefire, getting the Russians to fall for some stupid agreement that at least puts the war on hold so they can go do other stuff. I'm not sure, again, people, everybody's uncle, including a lot of the, dissident voices who don't accept the official line, said, oh, no, the Russians will never fall for that. I hope they're right. I don't know about that. I don't really know what their military plans are, what their overall political plan is for Ukraine. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, they're going to go to Kharkov next, or Odessa, or Kiev, or Lvov, what, I don't know what they're going to do. And, but I do think that it's not entirely irrational for these people to be basically aiming at some sort of almost like a Korean peninsula division of the continent that will last for decades to come. And I think that's really the overall strategy. The details are secondary, I think.
Yeah. I mean, also the idea that Poland has now become the new Germany in many ways. And this is not just my observation. This is what they're openly talking about. So now if the concept is to reduce Ukraine, or whatever is left of Ukraine, into basically a suburb of Poland, that Poland and maybe Romania or whoever, maybe Lithuania, gets to expand its borders a little bit. Who knows, right? Officially, unofficially, and then takes over that land and is administrating, defending it, etc. Then that also gets more interesting.
And by the way, remember, we just had some American general talking about maybe seizing Kaliningrad Oblast.
Right.
Somebody was a general was talking about that the last couple of days. Said, oh yeah, we could easily do that. Are these people out of their minds?
Yeah.
I mean, do they really think they could do that? But then again, because the Russians exercise such caution, they encourage that kind of adventurous thinking here, because they say, oh, the Russians must be very, very weak. They don't respond to provocation.
Yeah, I also think that. Okay, I'll tell you the story. I'll put it this way: when I was working in hospitality, I did a lot of work with wine, level 1 sommelier, all that kind of stuff. And really, the wine business is BS, right? It's a lot of BS. It's a lot of implanting things in people's minds. It's it smells like leather and all this other stuff, right? And pairing and all the rest. And there is a science, there is an actual reality to it, but overall, mostly it's whatever. And so you get really good at both selling and also understanding the sell. Like, you promise things that you can't possibly promise, but it doesn't really matter because you're doing it in a narrative way, and people like the narrative, they like the story. I feel like we've been living in that now, maybe for a very long time, but certainly if you look over the last 15 years, everything from tech to war to politics to everything are a bunch of people who are selling you this idea, and there's no way they can deliver on it. Absolutely no way.
Yeah.
This, again, these apps, these social media bans, all this stuff, it doesn't have a chance in hell, right? There's going to be, I guarantee you right now, there's a 12-year-old who's just got off his ketamine drip, who's a highly functioning autist, who's figuring this thing out. Okay, like they're going to jailbreak this thing. They're already using VPNs. Oh, now we got to ban the VPNs. Okay, well, if you ban the VPNs, and there's other networks and all this other silly stuff.
Sure.
It's almost built to fail, but the idea is it doesn't really matter. It's just them doing things.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I hear about nanobots and a lot of this technology and gene editing and or we can do all these things. Like, no, you can't. You can't. Stop lying. You can't do these things, but you're getting a lot of funding and a lot of money is being given to you to do these things. We're talking, of course, in the tech sector, and now they're outshoring most of the tech sector jobs to Indians, and Microsoft just made a big announcement saying it's going to invest heavily. Of course, the CEO of Microsoft right now is also East Indian persuasion. They're going to invest heavily in India, X billions of dollars of tech investment, and hiring a bunch of East Indians on for their tech divisions. You're like, okay, this has never worked out well. And no racism or something like that. It's just let's stop lying. We know this is not going to work out well. They did the same for Google,
and they're going to hire them to. Yeah.
Right.
They're going to hire them to come to the United States, though. I mean,
no,
H-1Bs, or what's the deal?
Well, no. This is now the big kerfuffle. JD Vance made a statement about this. It was JD Vance or someone along those lines when Microsoft made this announcement, and they're like, "Hey, right? You can't do this, or we're gonna make this very difficult for you." Because I think the first avenue was bring them over to America. Okay, we're getting rid of we're curtailing the H-1Bs and bring that under control. Okay, well then we won't bring them over here. We'll just finance a foreign country heavily. While still getting all your deals in America, right?
How is this not just a glorified version of the Bangalore of phone centers?
Right. No one and how did that work out for everybody? I've just watched YouTube and Google, any Google service, and even Microsoft itself. Windows 11 is becoming unusable. YouTube is just just an awful site now. Everyone doesn't like it because you have to either buy premium or put on ad blockers through another site and all this other stuff, and then things don't work, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, everyone should be over on kick.com for these live streams. No ads.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, we'll send you the link. No ads, mostly video games for now, but more and more people are transitioning over. So if we're talking about politics and all the rest of it, my brother from another podcast, Matthew Erickson's is streaming right now. So it's a good time to go over to Kick and find your alternatives. And of course, now we're streaming to Rumble as well again. And send a like, subscribe, all the things. Sorry, I have to do the show diligence. I'm saying all these things because one thing that we touched on, but I think you're very true, Jim, that we do feel this quickening, like things are coming to a head. By the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes, and you can't shake it. Like there's a vibe, and something's going to break.
Well, it's, there have been so many people, again, we mentioned Zero Hedge, that everybody's been expecting the Black Swan event for how many years now. And of course, the tendency then is to say, well, it's never going to happen. Nothing ever really changes fundamentally until it does. Right. And you have to wonder at some point whether the dark clouds are starting to gather and something significant is going to happen. I just don't know what it is. Or maybe it's not just one thing, it's more than one thing that makes a significant difference in the trajectory of events.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the funny now. I lost my funny. We had such a good funny mood coming in here. Now I'm getting
It's
I'm
not-
blackpilling myself here. Okay, so
yeah, it's like,
where do we think this goes? Um, let's bring it back to Russia, Ukraine, um, because
yeah,
now the official response out of the Kremlin is essentially niet. Right, we're not doing this 50-day
right,
anything.
yeah,
Kick rocks.
yeah,
I shared with you this one online thing. I don't. Again, I try to
yeah,
verify as much as I can. Um, in one span of one day, one report said Zelensky saying that the Putin's team is getting together and going to be talking about a meeting or something like that. And then literally
yeah,
right afterwards, saying a response from Russia saying, "Yeah, no, that's not going to happen." Uh, uh, One response out of papers saying, you know, uh, Putin's open to meeting that 50-day goal. Another report out of Russia saying, no way, we're not doing that. So, it's a very big muddying the
yeah,
waters.
yeah.
And since following all this Ukraine stuff, I've noticed that, like, you read Kiev Times and they'll just change reality, from
Hmm.
from day to day. So I guess
Yeah.
wait, let's not do the speculation thing with Russia. We've done too much of that, and it
No,
doesn't
no,
bear fruit.
no.
Um,
Unless
let's
unless Steve Witkoff is in a closed room somewhere with a bunch of Russian officials coming up with an actual peace agreement somewhere, because you haven't heard much from him. It's all been
right,
Kellogg talking to the Europeans and talking to people in Kiev. Uh, you know, talk about replacing Zelensky with Zelensky and whatever difference that would make. But again, unless something like that is going on, and I highly think I'm highly doubtful that it is. I don't see what difference it's going to make whether it's 10 days or 50 days. There's reason that I think Lindsey Graham is smiling like a Cheshire cat, and these guys are making all these threats because I think they figured we finally got him on the reservation.
well,
Now, maybe that's all wrong.
those
But,
European boys, Jim, are very smooth.
yeah,
That's why he's smiling all the time.
yeah, yeah.
Hi, Harry.
Yeah. Well, no, maybe he's got maybe he's got a thing for Ursula. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Well, has anyone checked her front area? We hear about this. The French
Oh yeah,
president's wife and Obama's wife husband.
yeah.
Uh,
Careful,
and
we could get sued like Candace Owens.
Oh, hey, I'm just saying what people are saying. I'm not saying it's true. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
in my Minecraft. Yeah. Just
yeah.
these things happen. Let's bring this to orthodoxy. Let's get out of the geopolitics stuff.
Okay.
Because I guess the open-ended question now is, on one hand, we're seeing exponential growth in catechumens coming to the church. Just in my little tiny southwestern parish,
Yeah.
this Sunday, I'll make the announcement. I'm going to be starting to my official catechism. The priest will be praying over us, as we'll be starting that process. And there's going to be 8 of us, and this is a parish that essentially opened its doors under Rocor about a year and a half ago, 18 months ago. They started with like 4 people, and now we're up around almost 30. So it's growing and growing quickly. And reports out of the United States, same thing. Father Moses McPherson just posted they're in the process of trying to buy a $2 million property to convert it into a church down in Texas. And he said he's brought in, I think, 80 catechumens. I might be misquoting, but something along those lines in the last very short period of time. Many reports of this. Young men are flooding to the Orthodox Church. So we can, glory to God on that. But as I can't shake this feeling, and this is maybe just a slob in me, that as people flood into the church, one, they're bringing stuff with them, and I'm praying that the clergy remain do their diligence, which in Orthodox they have a good track record of doing that. But politically, I think things get interesting going forward, because I think if you're fooling yourself if you think that what they're doing in Ukraine with the Autocelibate Church and the fake church and the attacks on Russian clergy, Ukrainian canonical church clergy, and all the rest of it, if you don't think that's going to come here, wherever you are, outside of Europe, it's going to come here. We're now seeing reports in Canada, and this is not Orthodox associated, but a American singer who ran for the district, he ran for a political position in LA a few years ago. He's been branded far right and Christian nationalist and all the boogie words. He did a Canadian tour, and when he was in Montreal, the cops were called. They said the church didn't have the right to have him perform there because they didn't have the right permits. And some guy walked in there and threw a firebomb in the church, and all the press is praising the actions of the authorities and decrying far right traditionalist Christianity, to a point where the RCMP has come out now and essentially said that they're going to be heavily policing anyone exposing any traditionalist, air quotes, boogeyman word values, which would include Christianity in general. Now, the singer in question, I think, is just evangelical Protestant, one of that whole thing. But they're not going to draw any distinctions on this anyways. It's not like they're like, oh, well, you guys are fine. What are you? The Russian church outside of Russia? Sure, absolutely. Continue unimpeded.
It's got Russia in its name twice.
Right.
It's double bad. Well, I think there's something to this. I mean, and we all also have to put it, let's not pretend there are not problems inside the church. I received an email from the Patriarch Bartholomew Ecumenical Foundation a day or two ago. It was an appeal to parishes in the Greek Archdiocese in the United States to become sponsors of the Ecumenical Patriarchate so they can be financially independent. They can build their own little Vatican over there or something like that and not be dependent on anybody except maybe their State Department sponsors. And they're appealing because out of the 500 or so parishes in the United States, only 16 have stepped up to be sponsors. So, I'm sure Bartholomew has all sorts of great plans with Pope Leo for some kind of a concordat or a union or intercommunion sometime next year, if that happens, because obviously both the Vatican and the FONAR have a lot of outside political influence on them. I mean, I could see a situation where there's a good Orthodox church that unites with Rome and has all the progressive values that the secular powers want, and a bad Orthodox church that is, backward and intolerant and full of hate,
traditionalist,
and working for the Russians because and so on and so forth. So I think that's a distinct possibility. Do I know that's going to happen? No, but I could see those contours developing. It doesn't take a lot of imagination to see that happening over the next couple of years.
Well, here's a little interesting data point. In the UK, they just, I don't know how just, I just became aware of it, so I'm not sure when they made this this title. There is a new Ministry of Sharia law being substantiated in the UK. Details I'm not quite fleshed out on. And of course, we know the situation in the UK is getting quite dire with not Jay Dyer, the other Dyer, of Muslim immigrants. Part of the reason why they hit this social media ban when they did is that now we're seeing mass protests break out all over Europe, especially in the UK. Apparently, the citizens have finally reached a point of saying, "No, brother, we're not doing it." And reactions are getting more and more violent. The interesting thing of all this, of course, is that we also have heard that Islam is a certain oasis in the sands broom, and I don't think it's all coincidence that these things are starting to happen now, much more pronounced. Of course, through J. Dyer, we found out what Vatican II is saying about, all praising one God, which I understand from my Roman Catholics viewers. We're not going to get into it, but there is a political game being played there that I should think is pretty obvious, and something that needs to be addressed. The Anglicans are in tatters. They're posing no resistance, not that they would anyways. So we're certainly seeing what looks like in certain quarters between, let's say, the EU and the UK and Canada, especially, a coordination attempt on attacking churches. Period. Whether they're burning them down, firebombing people in them, or smoke bombing, I should say. Or other attacks. This is happening, and it's not going to stop until I don't know when.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. I think we're farther from that in the United States. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think that for better or worse, given the quality of some of the churches we have here, but for better or worse, the church-going culture is still a lot stronger here, and of course, also the fact that we're armed too, unlike people in the UK and Australia. So I think, for that kind of thing to happen, it would be, I think it would take a lot more of a coordinated campaign to try to reach us, get us to the point where the UK and Canada are. I don't see that happening anytime soon here.
Well, and I would hope so. At least have one holdout that might be able to put pressure on the rest. Harry Ludwig asked you a question, Jim. Here, what does
about
Jim
Farrell?
think?
He said,
what does Jim think of Farrell's God, history, and dialogue or dialectic? I've never heard of it.
I'm not familiar with that. If Harry has a link, please send it. I'll try to check it out.
There we go. I'm just looking through the chat here. Jim says, I missed 2016 Lauren Daigle back when evangelical music was way more based and red pilled. Well, at least they have that. Going for them.
I'm not familiar with evangelical music or Christian contemporary music or rock or whatever they call it.
I just know that they're really into smoke machines. That seems to be a consistent, constant across the brand.
No, no. Well, wait. Well, we have those too. It's called incense.
Right.
That's our version of smoke machines.
It's the same thing. I mean, just
yeah,
put some
exactly. I mean, hardly any difference.
Just put some potpourri in there. It'd be fine.
Potpourri.
All right, Jim, we're coming up to the hour. Any last thoughts on the situations out there? I think we can all agree on this. Whether it's just all an act or all a show, I did enjoy watching the European leaders kind of have to look at their shoes, eat some crow, watching Donald Trump basically cut off Starmer and treat him like the nothing that he is, made me very, very happy. It made me smile inside.
Yeah. Schadenfreude is a real thing. I mean, I can appreciate it. It is sad though, because I mean, let's face it. I mean, as Americans or Canadians or Australians, I mean, Europe is our mother continent. It's the old continent that is the cradle of our civilization, and in the more proximate sense than say the ancient Middle East or something. And it's just sad to see the continent brought down to this kind of state of things. But then again, hey, you mentioned that people in the UK, Spain, other countries are starting to say, hey, enough is enough. I don't know where those lines cross in terms of how bad the leadership is and deservedly humiliated, and the social lack of cohesion that is angering many people, that maybe it's too late to turn it around. I don't know. I hope it isn't. Sometimes I feel actually a little more optimistic about Europe than I do about the US, because at least in Europe, there are lots of people who know that they're English or French or German or Spanish, Italian, whatever they are. Most Americans don't know who we are. I mean, they just have a civic concept of an Americanism. They really don't have any notion of Americans as a an organic people, the same way that we think of European nations. And I think that's going to be a big problem for us moving forward. And again, that's one of the things I think we want to relate to this conference that we're having in September, is that whatever happens to the American Republic, such as it is, or the constitutional order, there's still real live human beings here who have some kind of self-awareness, some kind of hopefully a sense of their own culture and identity that I think in many levels are amenable to Orthodox evangelism, because I think we have an element of rootedness to us about how we look at human life and how it relates to society and, of course, to God. So, I'm on that sense, I'm somewhat optimistic still, despite the shuddering of the towers as they're about to crumble, it seems.
Well, the change, living in history is after a prolonged period of not living in history, is going to be uncomfortable, and we're certainly in a period of change, apocalypse, whatever have you. I think one of the great gifts of the Orthodox Church is that it gives you context and continuity I think in a way that probably no other church, maybe other than maybe Roman Catholics can produce. And of course, we know the Roman Catholics like to change things around a little bit. At least with Orthodoxy, for now, anyways, across jurisdictions. Sorry, it's the same liturgy, and it's the same services and essentially the same rituals. So get yourself to, if you're not an Orthodox,
same theology. Yeah.
If you're not Orthodox, go to your local parish, or find a ROCOR if you want to liturgy in English, and go inquire. And if you are Orthodox, go to church.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yep.
Listen to this show.
And
like, subscribe,
why,
share it.
Jason? You know why? Because it's later than you think.
So we must hasten to the work of God. Jim, absolute pleasure as always. Ladies and gentlemen, do your duty. Go get his book. I try to warn you. Also available on Kindle if you don't want to have the paperback version hanging around. On Amazon, all fine booksellers. And of course, like, subscribe, and share this channel. Of course, you can make donations, not just while we're doing this live. There are buttons there. You press a link. Send me $5, $10, especially USD. And of course, how we pronounce this now, Ludwell Orthodox.
Ludwell, SouthernOrthodox.org.
Conference.
SouthernOrthodox.org. Yeah.
And there's, of course, links in the descriptions below, no matter where you're watching this. I appreciate each and every one of you. Plan is to be back tomorrow around the same time for the last goat stream, the last ever goat stream. We're ending the goat stream and starting something new. So be there for that. And we'll be back also on Thursday. Probably, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be on my channel or on King Pill's channel. But for a new episode of Network Armageddon Electric Boogaloo with Mr. Westford and a hello listener. So it's going to be fun, folks. And tune in next in August. Trying to put some guests together. And we'll have a talk about that after that, Jim. So tune in for that. And we'll be with you till the end. Of course, I am Jason Marinchuk. And it's later than you think.